Okay, going to continue with the campaign ideas and everything, but actually, I'm going to kind of like take a sideways step and talk about campaigns that my group and I that I've mentioned before. So actually going to talk I got here on the phone a good old Call of Cthulhu. This is a quick start rules that we use to be able to there's a PDF that was got and everything. So we did like a quick rundown of like a quick character creation and everything. So I do have a character creation video that you can go back and watch and everything. So we each, in a sense, created our own character and everything. So we've been kind of bouncing around, like I've mentioned in previous videos. We started off with I can't one shot in the Candlekeep Mysteries to start with D&D. We then bounced to Call of Cthulhu, and then we're finishing up Cyberpunk game, and of course we're moving on to Star Wars. So I figure, in case you want for other campaign ideas or whatever in other games and everything, kind of talk about experiences in groups that in the group that I play in, and our other can't since our other games and everything. So like I said, we did start off with D&D, and we moved on to Call of Cthulhu. So we created characters in that, and of course the whole concept of the game Call of Cthulhu is pretty much characters getting insane and everything. So now I can say in our campaign we in a sense went sideways compared to that and everything. So we had it set into the 1920s and in Boston. So now theoretically you could use the Call of Cthulhu set in any time frame. So we each had our own different characters like usual. So one friend played kind of the gangster type. Another one kind of played a reporter, an up and coming reporter. Another one played a academic, professor. And I pretty much played a private investigator, and so I was pretty much the oddball in that I played the private investigator, and I actually based my character off of the Harper Blaine character from the Cat Richardson's Greywalker series. Yeah, go figure in the 1920s and everything. So that's why I kind of played a private investigator. I was from Seattle, and then of course the rest of the people were from Boston and everything. But of course we all had the main NPC that got us together had a property in the small town, so we all knew him somehow. And so with me being a private investigator, my connection with him was I kind of in a sense would search out specific rare items or something in books, statues and stuff like that. And so the gangster, his connection was that he was taken under his wing and everything. So our NBC Rupert, I think it was Merriweather, but I'll have to ask and everything. So, his first name was Rupert. So, gangster was kind of taken under his wing, and he was kind of a mentor to the gangster character. The reporter, kind of the same deal, kind of reporting about helped him. The Rupert kind of helped him in his reports and stuff, and help him come up and become a journalist reporter, and the professor. They had connections in academia, and so the professor found one of these Peruvian Incan artifacts, and so that's how he was connected with Rupert. And so on Rupert's deathbed, he brought us all in to kind of hey, look, here's my property. I want you to to go there and kind of, in essence, what he wanted us to do was finish what him and his group had started good 50 years before, back in 1877. And through the as we learned stuff and everything, they pretty much in a sense had done a ritual on the property and everything to in a sense summon Cthulhu, and they the whole town was pretty much under the control of in a sense my control of Cthulhu. So we went in and trying to investigate and everything. And so we ended up initially the whole idea was for us to kind of end the ritual and send basically Cthulhu back into the abyss and everything, but through all our role playing and everything, we ended up pretty much going the complete opposite direction and getting the hell out of Dodge and everything. So we most of us did survive, but there was one that the gangster, he ended up going insane and dying. The reporter ended up becoming homeless, and the crazed homeless guy, and the way we played it, he was kind of in a sense of a time loop where he was one of those NPCs that we actually met in some weird time loop type of thing. The professor ended up going crazy and going insane, and was got put in an insane asylum. I probably got the least scarred out of all of them, and I only ended up with a PTSD, and of course a good old drinking problem gives me PTSD. But so in essence, I was the one that kind of got out unscathed and everything, but we still had all all that psychological damage and everything. So those of us that did survive and everything, so like I said, we kind of went in a totally different direction that was initially had planned out for us. But that's the great thing about RPGs, is that sometimes the best the DM might plan out oh hey look, I expect them to go this way, and then you end up going that way and everything. So now the great thing about it though is the how we ended it is it does leave the door open for us to go back to that. So theoretically, my character in a sense was young enough that 50 years later we could go back to that campaign and introduce my character, and of course the reporter that I said that got in that time loop or became homeless and insane or whatever. He was young enough too so in a sense we have a couple characters that we played, myself and one of my fellow party members, that were young enough in the 1920s that we could fast forward another 50 years or so, and then our new group could theoretically meet these two, and they could become NPCs and kind of introduce the whole concept hey look, yeah, either way, hey, don't go there, there's nothing but bad news and terror, and you're not going to want to go there. Or we could hey look, yeah, there's that, but you want to go to be able to put a stop to it and everything. So again, the way we ended it was while not necessarily the way we might have had ended it, with ending the ritual and ending the evil for good, we did end it in the sense that we did leave the door open that we could in essence return to that. So now, and in other videos I've stated I'm torn in that I want to get back to playing D&D on one hand, but kind of explain our campaign that we did with this one and everything. It's kind of why I'm enjoying kind of doing it, since these one shots or whatever, these shorter campaigns, to try out new things and everything. So now this next video next week and everything, what I plan on doing is going over our cyberpunk adventure, and of course by then we'll have been done that, and we'll have been starting up with our Star Wars. So my plan at least for a few of these videos will be the kind of talk about hey look, here's different campaigns that you can get into different games to try out and everything. So the whole concept of doing the campaign idea, but not just for D&D. So kind of drawing from my experience, and so kind of explain what we went through with the whole Call of Cthulhu. Of course, we've been doing our like I said, our cyberpunk one that we'll be finishing up. By the time I get this record uploaded, and by the time I get that one uploaded, we've already been done it and not moving on to our Star Wars. So that's the whole idea, with these kind of campaign ideas with what my group and I are doing, is to kind of give ideas to use to quite possibly hey look, maybe we want to break from D&D. let's try out these other games. So this was kind of like a rundown of our Call of Cthulhu campaign. Now, of course, it lasted several, like probably like 5 or 6 sessions, and like in a matter of like 10, 15 minutes, we really can't go in depth on like a whole 5 or 6 session one shot or campaign or however you want to do it. But it's just kind of quick overview, and I'll be doing kind of like the same thing like with our cyberpunk campaign next week. And once we do finish up Star Wars, I'll probably do that, and of course that will probably be like a few months down the road and everything, because we usually meet every couple of weeks and everything. So this one was kind of like get the idea rolling for other games, and then kind of overview and recap of our Call of Cthulhu campaign, or in instance one shot, or however you want to call it, that we did, and that we finished up probably at this point several weeks ago.